Parties which formed Haiti's presidential council now try to disassociate from it. This is an article by Bertini Dupont from volume 18, number 25, the 18th to the 24th of December, 2024. The subtitle is Thieves Trying to Fool the People by Shouting, Thief. There's a picture in the article of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council, the TPC. The subtitle is The TPC is now under fire from the parties who nominated its members. From left to right, Fresnel Joseph, observer member of the religious sector, Leslie Voltaire from the Lavalas family, Famille Lavalas, the current president of the TPC at the time, Laurent Sincere from the business sector, who is now the current president, the rotating president of the TPC, Regine Abraham, who is an observer of the TPC, Fritz Alphonse Jean from the Montana Accord, Edgar Leblanc Fils from the January 30th Collective, Emmanuel Vertier from Dessalines Children, Petit Dessalines, Smith Augustine from EDE RED, and Louis Gérald Gilles from the December 21st Agreement. And in the picture, the 9 members of the TPC are standing side by side, and they are all dressed in suits. They're in the presidential palace or chamber for their meetings, all standing together. Some have their hands crossed and some have their hands flat by their side, but they're all more or less staring forward at the camera and dressed impeccably well. And another picture in the article, the Montana Accord's BSA statement signers, Magali Como-Denis, Ted Sandi, and Ernst Mathurin, and there's a picture of the 3 of them, all also dressed well. Ted Sandi has his, and Ernst Mathurin, they have their collars open, looking relaxed, and Magali Como-Denis has jewelry, a necklace on, as well, and earrings, with a nice suit on. And there's a third picture as well. I should say that the BSA that was referenced from the Montana Accord will be explicated a little bit more in the article. And then there's a third picture, the Lavalas family executive committee from left to right. Marie Narcisse, Jean Myrto Julien, Joël Edouard Pasha is his nickname in quotation marks, Pasha Vorb, and Anthony Desausel. And in the picture, it is the 4 members of the Famille Lavalas, of the executive committee. They're all pictured, all dressed in suits and nice dress shirts as well, with the 3 with glasses, and Pasha Vorb without, but he is, it seems he has a hookah pipe that is to his, I can't quite tell if it's a hookah or a saxophone. Saxophone was my first guess, but I actually, upon closer inspection, it looks like a hookah pipe, but yeah. So the article begins. On December 12th and 13th, 2024, 3 sectors which hold all 6 political seats in the 9-member Transitional Presidential Council, TPC, issued statements which revealed how completely rotten Haiti's political class has become. The 3 sectors once again showed how totally cynical and obedient they are in following U.S. imperialism's dictates. Already, back in March, the same hypocritical politicians colluded with CARICOM, a subcontractor of U.S. imperialism, to concoct and take part in this shameful TPC. On U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's orders, they all had to agree to the foreign military occupation of Haiti to be part of the Presidential Council. U.S. imperialism, with their Caribbean handmaidens, now effectively rule our nation. As the TPC becomes increasingly dysfunctional, ineffective, and hated, Instead of making a self-criticism, the three sectors are trying to exonerate themselves, distance themselves from it, and wash their hands of this project, and the other dirty work they have done over decades. So what are these three sectors which issued very similar statements, and who are the individuals that signed them? First, there is the Montana Accord, represented by Magali Komodeni, Ted Sandi, and Ernst Mathurin, acting on behalf of that grouping's monitoring office, Bureau de Suivi de l'Accord, or BSA. Then there is a statement by the Lavalas family, Famille Lavalas, signed by Maurice Narcisse. I should say that's a political party, the Lavalas family political party. Signed by Maurice Narcisse, Joël Edouard Pacha-Vorbe, Anthony Dessos, and Jean-Myrto Julien. The third statement is signed by Sorel Jacinthe and lawyer André Michel for the December 21st agreement, Claren Renoir and Linné Balthazar for the January 30th collective, Claude Joseph and Claude Edouard for EDERED, and Guy Velien of the Dessalines Children PPD party. Guy Velien and PPD head Moïse Jean-Charles have since denied that they authorized Verlien's signature to be put on the statement. Quote, "The time has come to build, with all the forces of the country, a real alternative to the TPC, in brackets, to save the nation," end quote, Montana's BSA wrote, quote, "while preserving the fundamentals of the bracket inserted, editor's note, never made public agreement of April 3rd, 2024, for a peaceful and orderly transition." Continued quote, "While more than 6 million people are hungry, 1 million people had to leave their houses to go live in the street. The TPC and the government don't show that they have any feelings for or capacity to respond to the population's urgent needs," wrote the Lavalas family. Their representative, Leslie Voltaire, is currently the TPC's rotating president of Haiti. Quote, "To save, while there is still time, this transition, which has been severely undermined by the 9 president councilors' desire to favor their particular interest to the detriment of the general interest, the undersigned stakeholders, 1. Call on the CPT members not indicted in the BNC, Banque Nationale, corruption scandal to dissociate themselves from the 3 president councilors indicted in this scandal by a political act which consecrates their exclusion from the institution. 2. Invite CARICOM's group of eminent personalities as facilitator to initiate talks between the president councilors and the stakeholders to take note of the non-implementation of the agreement of April 3rd, 2024, and the obsolescence of the CPT's mission," wrote the December 21st agreement, January 30th collective, EDERED, and Dessalines Children. If you analyze these politicians' statements, what they claim to criticize is insignificant, even meaningless, compared to their anti-patriotic behavior of supporting Haiti's foreign military occupation. In fact, they are trying to trick the masses, as if they had nothing to do with the current chaos, nor with demagoguery, corruption, and failure of their representatives in the TPC. In other words, they are only thieves shouting, "Thief!" For years, they have been courting Washington in order to enter into good graces with the Haitian state, which has been dismantled day after day with their assent, even complicity. One of the reasons why these 3 statements were issued almost simultaneously is because these organizations worry about how quickly things are unraveling, and want to redeem themselves, especially as the number of state crimes and state assassinations, from the poor in the slums to activists like Dixon West, who was assassinated, grows. It is a national shame. There are no words to describe the absurdity of these individuals who, directly or indirectly, have contributed to constructing this house of cards which is now ready to collapse. To illustrate their hypocrisy, take the case of Anthony Dessos. Although he signed the Lavalas family's note critical of the TPC, the body has named him to be Haiti's ambassador to Canada. He does not even have the decency to decline the position. It must also be noted that many quote-unquote leftist activists from Montana Accord affiliates, like the Roots of the People's Camp Party, Racine Can Pepla, and the Teachers Union UNNOH, work for or are advisors to people like Fritz Alphonse Jean, who represents Montana on the TPC, or for government officials like Education Minister Antoine Augustin, where they feed off the teat of taxpayers' money. It should also be noted that former Lavalas family Senator Nanel Cassie's branch of the Democratic Popular Sector, SDP, not that of Sorel Jacinthe and André Michel, now holds the key positions in Prime Minister Alex Didier Fissame's office, appointing many activists to coveted sinecures in state agencies. The popular movement should concede nothing to these blackmailers, these imperialist vassals who continue to heavily mortgage any real possibility of progress and change in Haiti. At present, we can only fight all the microbes attacking our political immunity as they use the quote, insecurity as their pretext for not taking their responsibilities. Isn't it ridiculous to claim to fight against insecurity when so many young people from disadvantaged or lawless neighborhoods are left to their own devices, unemployed, without schooling or any prospects for the future, themselves confronted with all kinds of insecurity? What a sad irony when Haiti's state is run only by corrupt lackeys and certified agents of the imperialist powers. Let these traitors to Haiti's cause know that their actions and declarations will fool no one except their allies. The system's garment is worn out. It can no longer be patched up to fool the masses. These desperate steps aimed to impress either CARICOM or the imperialist powers are far from frightening those who will certainly not let themselves be diverted from the path they have chosen, that of fighting until the final victory for Haiti's national liberation.